All right, lastly, what we'd like to touch on is obviously Manjimup, really iconic event over there in Western Australia. Incredible sort of spectacle for the sport. Obviously, probably doesn't get the coverage it deserves, but definitely in Australia, people know about it. Over in New Zealand, a lot of dudes know about it. There's a lot of people that respect it. You know, Dean Wilson did it last year, for example. All the heavy hitters in Australia. It's really well supported. So, your take on it, BT, mate? You've been there, seen it. You know what an incredible event is, don't you?
Yeah, um, personally, I love it. I would go so far to say it's like one of the only true international events left in the calendar globally. And just for people to understand what that actually means is it's an independent race outside of a national championship, and if you look at, the two main areas of the world, obviously the European scene, which was absolutely just glittered with international events in the past. Like it was nothing for someone like in this current time, Jeffrey Hurlings. Let's use him as an example to go to a standalone, let's call it a Manjimup in France or Italy or somewhere like that, and take 10K of cash in his pocket home. He didn't even have to. He didn't have to race and win the event. He just had to show up, drop the clutch, go over the gate, and they'd give him 10K just for being there in cash. Well, that doesn't really happen anymore. And I guess the point I'm trying to make, Jed Beaton ain't getting 10K to drop the clutch and go over the gate at Manjimup. But the point being is that those standalone events just don't exist globally anymore. And I've been to Manjimup in recent years. I was there in 15 and I was there recently on a 450, which I don't know why I agreed to doing that. I begged to race on a 125 in the vets, but I wasn't allowed to. But the point I'm getting to, it's just an epic event. And the key word there is event. It's not a race. And the reason I can attest to this is the last time I was there, the first time I was there, it was a wicked experience. I was there with Nick Way. I don't know. There was a few international riders there. I can't recall all of them off the top of my head, but it was a pretty stacked field in terms of the level of what we all were racing at. There was no world champion, American champion riders there, but we all raced pretty hard, and it was a great event that day and pretty cool, unique format. You race your main motos, but you've also got that, I think they call it like sort of like an eliminated type format in the middle of the day, which is really cool. Do multiple starts and very few laps. But anyway, to get to the point I'm making is just that why it is an event is just people go there, and I guess it's because it's the only major race on that side of Australia for fans to get to and attend and support, and they just line the fence like it's literally you wouldn't say 360 degrees of the track, but certainly it would be 270 because a large portion is taken up with the pit area on one area around the start, but the rest of it, the fans just line the fences. They back their utes up. They've got, it's pretty cold usually on King's birthday weekend. Is that what you call it in Australia? King's, that's what we call it, King's birthday weekend.
Yeah, I think it is now. Yeah, Queen or King,
Yeah,
whatever it is at the
yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah. They line the fences for that weekend because it's obviously a long weekend. They've usually got a bonfire set up or a brazier or some type of thing. Or obviously, do you call it an esky? I don't know. We call it
Yep.
an esky. That's certainly not Coca-Cola's. That's for sure. That's filled with, and they just enjoy it. And the speaker system there is out of this world. Like you can hear it in town, and town 10 is 10 Ks away. So it's just a unique event in a sense, and I really applaud them for, the level that they do it at. It's higher in terms of an event quality than what you go to a national championship event, in my view, just in terms of what it is for the spectators. And I guess like when you go to a national championship event, it's a different, there's different stakes, different terms at stake in terms of, for the riders and what they're racing for. When you go to a Manjimup, it's all about putting on a good show and enjoying, racing your dirt bike and getting some reward financially for it, in your results. And certainly they put on an awesome event for the riders as well, to enjoy it. And I think that's just one of those real still, it's a gem of an event that's nestled in the calendar in Australia. And I've said it publicly for quite a few years, and it's easy for me to say this, but like it's so cool to see Yamaha support it to the extent they have been and stepped up into by far the biggest support they've ever done this year with a host of riders. And Uribe's always supported it for sure. The Ants and his family from Berry Sweet have been huge supporters of it, which is awesome because, without guys and families and businesses like them, our sport isn't at the level to operate, without them. So, massive kudos to Ants and Leanne for their support to that event as well. And obviously to Willie, he's a unique individual, for I guess sustaining, the standard of what he has and actually increasing the standard of the event. Like I said, there's many parts that he's added to it, and I guess he's a true promoter in a sense, which is cool. You got to have guys like that, and I think it's great for the sport, obviously in Western Australia, but the sport as a whole. In Australia to have that event outside of the nationals. So yeah, cool. Obviously the boys went at it. I see Brody did really well in the eliminator races, which would have been right up his alley. And then Jed and Kyle are racing at a phenomenal level. And when I say that, like a national level, I think what people have to take into context is just when you race at a national championship level, you really are riding at the highest caliber normally that can be delivered in that national championship. And if you bought at the moment Jet leading the national championship in America or Fevra leading the world championship, if you bought them there, they're not strides ahead. I know that because I've raced at that level and then the next weekend raced at an international level and been competitive. So what you're seeing from Jed and Kyle right now is a really high level of racing. And if you look at, someone like Brody, who was, I think, from what I saw, it's hard to sort of to follow it too closely, but seemed like he was in third-ish position. He was a long way off, respectively, long way off their lap times and the finishing result of Kyle and Jed. And so it was super impressive. Manjimup is no joke, man. It's a game of two halves, that track. You basically have to have your gearing set at just ridiculous speeds for one half of the track because you're in a tuck. It's like you're on a MotoGP bike. You're just tucked in for half of the lap. And that's like on a real, like, sort of clay, rocky, yeah, stony type soil. And then once you finish that half a lap, you get into like a real gnarly sand. It's super gnarly, like not a deep sand, but a rough, gnarly sand for the remaining half of the lap. So it's a true man's track, that's for sure. Respectfully, in saying that and the way that you race it and pretty cool event. So yeah, I've got a lot of pretty positive stuff to say about that event. And just, I guess I've just had a great experience going there and then seeing and being at my age and seeing what it does for the sport as a whole. I think is really, really cool in the way they run it. It's a unique format. Bring the pros in on Friday to get it started. Then you get going with junior racing, Friday afternoon through Saturday and have the pros back Sunday to, as the main show. So pretty cool, really cool event. It's probably doesn't get the support that it should, but it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's a long way from the main residents of Australia, and it's in this day and age, costs are extreme, through the roof to get there, and it takes a huge level of commitment to have riders on the start line from the East Coast, and just you can make all the arguments you want. That's just sort of the reality of it. So yeah, very cool event if you've never been and you want to, as a spectator or a fan, I guess, go over and attend it. It's a pretty cool part of the world. There's a lot of breweries, wineries, and good food and beverages to enjoy, and then watch some dirt bike racing as well. So yeah, really cool event.
Yeah, super iconic, isn't it, mate? And it's sort of like it's a testament to the allure of it that, those heavy hitters like Webster, Beaton, Duffy, Todd Waters, Brody Connolly, all these dudes race it. So adding that star power to it, obviously Dean Wilson last year, Lars Van Berkel did it, the guys you mentioned. So it's definitely got traction worldwide, hasn't it? And people look for it on the calendar where possible. And like you said, those races, like the sort of exhibition races, or different championship rounds, those Japan races back in the day, they're cool. And, they give the fans in other areas of the world that little bit of taste of excellent motocross or what World Supercross are trying to do in a different way. But it's a super cool event that holds its own, doesn't it?
Oh, well and truly hold its own. It punches way above its weight in that sense, and that's why I speak so highly of it, just from my experience, of it. And I've been there a couple of times. I would have loved to take my boys there. They're probably not going to get the opportunity as juniors, or won't get the opportunity as juniors, but maybe in the future they might. And I've been actually, you talk about the international component, which Willie, he's always been hunting and on the lookout for, and I've tried to support him because of the enjoyment that I've had from the event. And I've actually been trying to rally RV to come there for a number of years to race a 125. And I said, right, we'll show up there together and both race on 125. So that's something that I've been campaigning him for quite a while. It just hasn't, the it's difficult, to get the worlds to collide at times. And probably that ship sailed now with, the amount of effort that we're both putting into our own children, our own boys racing. It's probably ship sailed there, which is unfortunate. It was pretty close actually last year, 2024. It was pretty close to
Cool.
happening, but yeah, and he'd love that part of the world. A few beers at a
Oh,
brewery,
yeah.
and then do a bit of dirt bike racing. He wouldn't mind that. So yeah, it's certainly got a real allure, that event. There's no doubt about it, and it's cool to see an event maintain that status that it has. Because I can tell you from what I know and being here in Europe, there's not many outside of Grand Prix racing or national championships. There's not many true standalone international events left anymore. It's quite unique to see the stature that Manjimup still holds in the racing, in racing terms.
Yeah, it's kind of like, where elite, racers in their prime races, nothing really like it, is there? You look at those veterans races, say at Fox Hill, the Veterans Motocross the Nations, that's really cool. Obviously, RV's done that recently too, mate, and heaps of other, major players. But yeah, getting guys in their prime, it's something special, isn't it?
Yeah, apparently the I guess you'd have to talk to guys like Dakar and Gawley and guys like that. But apparently there used to be a massive swing where they would do three different events on the trot in Western Australia. There was one area there, I forget the name of the event, but I think they got gold nuggets maybe to win the event. And then
Wow.
they had that race and Manjimup and then one other in Western Australia. And apparently, in the heyday of racing in that era, it was an enormous swing of racing for them during their season. So yeah, it's certainly, it's a historical event, and it's one of the only ones obviously left in Australia that I know of. Certainly, we have three of them in New Zealand in that unique sense where they're standalone. We've got one, the name of it's MX Fest, and then we have another one that's in October, and that's on a holiday weekend. Then we have Summercross, which is at Christmas time, that's on a holiday weekend, and then we have Woodville, which is at the end of January, and that's on a holiday weekend. So those holiday weekends seem to have something about them. It's just, I guess, mentality of society, right? To looking for something to do, and whether it be, as a competitor or as a fan. either or. There's the allure of a long weekend that has a big effect, on society. So yeah, pretty cool that to see the stature of that van and where it still is, and really cool to see the elite riders of Australian motocross show up, with Jed, Kyle, Brody, and Kingsford as well. Like
Yeah.
that, those are your four cream of the crop right now, and then you add in Duffy and Waters, and I'm sure I'm missing a number of riders, but it's really cool to see. Awesome, cool event.
Yeah, because WA does produce some really excellent riders. You look at Webster, and I did a podcast with Caden Manier. Obviously, went 1-1 at the scouting moto combine at Hangtown. So I spoke to him after that, and he was a bit gutted he was missing Manji, to be honest. And it just shows he's racing for Star Racing, and he's still thinking about Manji, because it's just so awesome.
Yeah, did you see he was on the marketing lineup for Manji? He was part of their marketing, and I laughed. And the reason I laughed is because Willie's done that to me before. He's announced me racing before we've even agreed to that I'm going to be showing up. So I did have a little giggle about that, and I knew, I was 100% sure that there was no way that Caden was lining up there because I knew he'd be at Hangtown. So I had a little giggle about that. But yeah, they do definitely have produced, the boxed far above their weight from WA, that's for sure. And it's probably just the nature of the conditions that they ride in over there, and that's usually, those tough riding conditions definitely breed good races in a sense. We've seen that throughout the world. So it's probably not a surprise in that sense.
Yeah, you feel it's a really crucial sort of event on the calendar for the WA fans and riders and whatever, because obviously they don't have a Pro MX national motocross round because it's all probably logistically on financially creates some issues. Most of it's all on the East Coast, but it really gives the fans something to look forward to. And they had the WSX there last year. So definitely a massive moto community over there. So anything they can get is really cool and it gets super well supported, doesn't it?
Yeah, huge moto community, massive and super passionate, real tight knit as well. I've noticed. I've spent a lot of time over there in recent years with Manjimup a couple of times and a couple of other events, and then the boys did the AJMX last year, and I truly believe it's probably for me personally like the part that I enjoy the most. If I was to travel, if someone said, "Where do you want to go in Australia?" I would say, "Oh, I'd like to go down to that Manjimup area out on the coast there." I really enjoy it. It's just a beautiful part of Australia, and I think that I feel like I've always said this to people, like when I'm explaining it. I feel like time slows down in a sense when you go over there. Like it feels like you're going back into like the 90s and just everyone has more time for each literal has more time for each other, and there's just a lot less drama, and it seems to me in the moto scene, just everyone just enjoys doing it, and they love being around each other, whereas it just seems so much more cutthroat on the East Coast and dog eat dog style of sort of mentality. So it's just a very different culture, that stems from, I guess, the way that society is on the West Coast, and the way that it's just a sort of a calmer society, and that's in you see that in racing and the way that people are at the events there. So yeah, definitely a very enjoyable scene to be racing a dirt bike, that's for sure. And there's some great tracks too. Like I haven't been to a bad one on the West Coast if I'm honest, So yeah, cool scene. Really, really cool scene.
That's awesome. It's been awesome to have a quick chat about Manjimup, mate. It needs the coverage, and obviously I hope it just keeps growing and growing as time goes on, mate, because it looks like the teams in Australia, those, couple of factory ones are here to support it, aren't they, mate? So long may it continue.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see all of them support it, to be honest. I think there's great value in the brand supporting it. Obviously there's a cost associated to that, but I think that certainly, for the brands, that cost, in terms of like what the presence is of the sport in Western Australia, you would tend to think, there's value in attending that, for the cost. So interesting to see Yamaha step up in a big way. Uribe's been supporting it now. Well, I went there with Uribe in 20, 15, and I think for all of those years has been supporting it. Obviously, has a major supporter and Berry Sweet there, which is a huge supporter of the event as well. So he's there, to represent one of his biggest supporters as well, and Yuri has always supported the sport as well. As has Scott Bishop and Craig Dack with Yamaha. So I'd be cool to see, KTM or the Austrian brand step up. And I know they've sort of been there in bits and pieces, and would be, as well as Kawasaki, would be good to see them there. They've got a huge sponsorship with Penrite, which is, it's an Australian as it gets, and Manjimup as Australian as it gets as well. So you'd think that goes hand in hand, together to be there representing. So yeah, interesting that a couple of the brands don't see the same value in it for the investment of effort that it takes to do it. But yeah, nonetheless, still an awesome event, and I'm not sure if I know Sam Hill was majorly involved last year with a mountain bike style event, as a sideshow. I'm not sure if that happened this year, but it's not just motocross, it's certainly got other components to it. And that's what I guess why I made the point that it's not just a race, it is a complete event, which is what makes it and so enjoyable to be a part of.
Yeah, it's a real showpiece, and you know that the town all gets around it and looks forward to it, I'd imagine, because it's just, yeah, everyone would go to it. They must get so many numbers through the gate, and obviously any interactions or engagement that the sponsors can have with the fans. A lot of kids going through there, mate. So definitely be worth, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And must have a huge, investment for the town and return on investment for the town, which, or the region, and that for that matter, that gets a benefit. So I just think overall, can't speak highly enough of it, to be honest. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Yeah, if anyone missed it, go check it out on socials and all their pages. There's some really awesome footage of the riders shredding on that track. It's a really special event. So been good to chat about it, BT, on this one too.
Yeah, mate, it sounds good. It's cool to talk a little bit of, what's happening in our own backyard as well as, I know we get caught up in what's going on and all the bright lights and the stars, but just looking at our own backyard, there's a lot going on, and take, nothing away from the speed that Jed and Kyle are currently racing at. It's truly world class. It just is not seen, I guess, by people on the same lens that I'm looking through it, because they don't probably understand, that level of what they're racing at. So yeah, cool to see. I hope to see them take it all the way down to the wire like they did last year. I'm sure that probably Jed doesn't want to, because he didn't come out on the shiny side of that one. But as a fan, that was what a championship to watch last year.
Yeah, the level's elite, mate. It's been good to dedicate a bit of time to manage him up in the Aussie moto scene. So we'll look forward to keep doing it, mate.
Yeah, sounds good.